Now these next examples are not as obvious as the examples at the end of the last video. So in these examples, we want to identify what types of angles are angles 1 and 2 and angles 3 and 4. So here's where I kind of use my different colors. So if you have a highlighter or colored pencils, this will really come in handy. The first thing I always try to do is determine which segment or line would be considered the transversal. Now the transversal must form a side of both angles. So in this first example, the transversal is the diagonal of this quadrilateral. Highlighting that here in blue. So there's our transversal, and then I usually take another color and I highlight the other side of angle 1 and the other side of angle 2. So those are the lines that it's intersecting. So now, based on this, what type of angles would angles 1 and 2 be? Well, let's see, they're inside, they're on the interior of the yellow lines, and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So now I can easily see that angles 1 and 2 are examples of alternate interior angles. So let's try the same sort of process with the next example. So first thing I want you to do is highlight the transversal and then highlight the other side of angle 3 and the other side of angle 4 so that we can really see those different lines that we're trying to look at. So your transversal again is going to be the diagonal of this quadrilateral because it goes through both angles 3 and 4. And then the other two sides of angles 3 and 4 are going to be the lines highlighted in yellow. Now, looking at angles 3 and 4, notice they're both outside of the yellow lines, but they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So these are examples of alternate exterior angles. So like I said, just looking at these diagrams, it's a little bit challenging to kind of identify this at first, but if you use the different colors, it makes a huge difference. And we're going to practice using these different colors in Chapter 5 when we have to identify parallel lines and transversals. Okay, so here's another example of a diagram similar to something you may see. And so what I'd like you to do is I have listed a bunch of different pairs of angles, and I'd like to see if you can identify all the different types of angles. Now this one's a little bit more challenging because there are two transversals going on here. But see what you can do. See, using your notes from the previous page, see if you can identify and label each of these. So press pause right now, and then once you are done, press play to check your final answers. So check your answers. The first set of angles, 3 and 8, are alternate interior angles. 5 and 2, those are interior on the same side of the transversal. 2 and 10 are corresponding angles. 5 and 9 are vertical angles. 9 and 6 are alternate exterior angles. And then the last set, 9 and 10, those are supplementary angles. So take a look, see how you did, and then we're going to move on and actually talk about parallel lines next. Okay, parallel lines are lines that never intersect. The symbol for parallel lines just looks like two parallel lines. Now we can never assume parallel lines from the diagram, so that would have to be given. So this should say that line AB is parallel to line CD. Now the way to label this with tick marks on your diagram is to use either one set of arrows, so that would mean that those two lines are parallel, or you can sometimes see like the double arrow. So that's how you would label it on a diagram. So if we look at the example labeled below, we know that lines B and C are parallel because they already have the tick marks. So the conclusion that we can make from this is that line B is parallel to line C. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about parallel lines in the next chapter, but just kind of wanted to preview that just real briefly with you in this section.